Okay, so we're trying a new setup today, so you could let me know how it looks in the comments. But today's video, we're going to be talking about the DZO Arles set of prime lenses. Now, this is a little bit of an upgrade from the Vespa primes I've had a couple of years ago. They actually sent me the 35, the 50, the 75, and 100, and I'd love to tell you I can keep them, but actually to this part of the video, I actually don't know. But we'll talk about my experiences because, well, for the most part, the specs are already online, but, well, we'll get there. Alright, so I should have mentioned this before, but this video is sponsored by Artlist. I actually broke my microphone, and I wanted to do a little bit of voiceover when comparing the Arles Primes to the DZO Vespids, but I'm gonna let the AI robots do that instead. Also, all of the music I use in this video, also Artlist, so there's that. Now, you guys are already probably used to the DZO Vespa Primes, or maybe some of you have already saved up your money to buy yourself a set, and well, these guys came out. And you're probably wondering what the immediate differences are. Now, for one, we're going to compare these guys in terms of image quality later in this video, but these are significantly thicker lenses. Like, just have a look at this guy up close. This thing is an absolute beast. Now, it's nice that it has a 95mm outer diameter, which is nice for matte boxes, especially if you have a 95. And it's also 86mm on the inside. Now, I did get the PL version of these, mostly because PL adapters are easy to find, and for the most part, this is actually a pretty thick lens. Now, another difference you're going to notice is going to be in the aperture, where the DZO Vespa Primes are t2.1, where these are all in f1.4 throughout the set. Now, the DZO Arles Primes, just like any other cinema lenses, are going to be manual focus, and one of the advantages of manual focusing lenses is a longer focus throw. Now, I did hook this up onto my Focus Pro using the hand wheel and just pulling by hand. I didn't set these guys up on my Focus Pro LiDAR just yet, but the longer throw means it's easier to dial in your focus. If you use photo lenses a lot, that focus throw diameter isn't as big. This guy's 270 degrees, so you do almost need to turn one full rotation in order to get from minimum to maximum focus. It just makes it easier, honestly, to make sure that you dial things in if you're pulling manual, which is the only option on most cinema lenses, just like this guy. Now, also, the last thing you've probably noticed, this is kind of big. It is 3.3 pounds, so if you haven't gone to the gym and you want to shoot in handheld, I probably wouldn't use this lens very much unless you're going to be using an easy rig. Now, one of the things you're also going to notice, this is covering a VistaVision sensor. This is going to be a little bit larger than full frame. Now, in terms of VistaVision cameras, most of them aren't VistaVision, so you should be just fine. But in terms for most people and their cameras and the price point for these guys, it's going to cover your sensor just fine. You don't have to worry about getting anything larger unless you're using something larger than VistaVision, which I highly doubt if you're watching this video. Now, there are a bunch of tech specs available for the DZO Arles Primes, but I'm not really a tech spec guy in terms of lenses. You can go on channels like CVP. They go way into more depth in terms of the flaring and the minimum focusing distance and whether they need to be shimmed and all that other stuff. So I am going to leave a link in the description down below, but I want to talk about the experience, starting off with the image quality. Now, one of the big differences between cinema lenses and spherical lenses is that sometimes photography lenses, sometimes autofocus lenses are a little bit too perfect, if that makes any sense. They're completely clinically clean and sharp. They don't have a lot of character to them. They're very neutral, and they're a pretty safe bet 99% of the time. Now, just like you would pick different cameras, maybe depending on the look that you can get, lenses are kind of the same thing. And the DZO Arles lenses look way better than the price point that they are. I've used any lens from the Irexes, the old DZO Vespa Primes, or the Tokina Vista Primes, which kind of remind me of these guys, although these guys are a little bit lighter and they're a lot cheaper, but it does have that sort of detailed but not over sharpened look to it. It does swing a little bit warmer, which works really well on skin tones, and it has a nice highlight roll-off. Sometimes when you're using super sharp lenses like photography lenses, that gradient between some of the darker areas, especially on skin and where you might see a source or where a light's coming from, it might be a little bit too harsh and off-putting a little bit. You do have to do a little bit more in the image in post, and it is a little bit easier when the lenses do the heavy lifting for you. Now, I've used this on a variety of different projects, interiors, exteriors, lighting up gyms, going into low light scenarios, and across the board, it's a very detailed image. It's great on skin tones. It has a nice roll-off, and obviously it makes your images look cinematic. You could have the latest and greatest camera body, but a lot of times you might hear some wise information about dating the camera body but marrying your lenses. And I like these, so I want to put a ring on them, but well, I don't know if DZO will let me keep them. I still think I have to bring them back. Now, this is where we're going to do two different things. One, we're going to talk about our sponsor today, which is going to be audio, while I do show you the side-by-sides between the DZO Vespa Primes and the DZO Arles Primes. Now, just for safety, I did match these guys to T2.1 because it wouldn't be fair because the Vespids can't do T1.4. And while I'm telling you about audio, I am going to tell you about some of the image quality I noticed between these two lenses.
For the sake of time, I'm just going to tell you generally. that the Arles Primes are a warmer, more creamy, soft look in comparison to the Vespid Primes. Skin tones look really great with that little warm tint, and being able to shoot at t1.4 and still keep your sharpness puts this lens right up with lenses that I've used that are way more expensive. The flaring on either lens isn't too crazy, which means it would be a more clean canvas to dial things in with filters. Or if you wanted to run this lens as is, it's a very good look. Arles does have a leg up being t1.4, where the Vespid t2.1, but with the Vespids, they're less than half the size and price, so it is up to you and your needs. Back to Kofi to explain how voiceover AI works.
So this is how VoiceOver AI works with Artlist. All you have to do is go over to their website, go to VoiceOver AI, and you have a variety of different voices to choose from. I like using All-Arounder as it's the most that sounds possibly kind of like what I would sound like if I was an American. But what's cool about this is not only can you type in your dictation for your voiceover, which you just heard, but you also have some parameters where you could change how the sound of the voice actually works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the comparison of what it actually sounded like before.
For the sake of time, I'm just going to tell you generally that the Arles Primes are a warmer, more creamy, soft look in comparison to the Vespid Primes.
And this is what it sounded like after.
For the sake of time, I'm just going to tell you generally that the Arles Primes are a warmer, more creamy, soft
A special shout out to Artlist, and if you do want to check it out, my code is going to probably be on the screen or somewhere in the description down below. But let's just get back into the rest of the video. Now, one note I want to leave when talking about these lenses is that these are just a small piece of the puzzle. The lenses alone aren't going to make your images look as good as they possibly can. You still need to have a camera body that's going to work for your particular shoot, and also going to be your lighting as well. I am going to go through a couple of lighting videos, especially in some of the examples in this video, but leave a comment down below if you guys do want to see a lighting breakdown, particularly for interiors, which in my case is mostly gyms. Now, in terms of where my shooting style is, I like my lenses a little bit thicker. I do tend to shoot handheld quite a bit, and the more that I can weigh down my camera rig, the better it is for me to get smoother handheld shots. Now, I haven't been able to use these lenses on more than just the Sony FX line, the FX3 and the FX6. I'd love to try them on other cameras, I just don't have them right now. Actually, the S5 IIX is recording this video, but that's nor here nor there. But what I want to talk about is the benefit of having high quality glass on a sensor, even if it's going to be 3 or 4 years old. I use this guy on the Sony FX3, and I think this is where I noticed that these were really great lenses. On the FX3, sometimes you have that built-in sharpening, that built-in noise reduction, and sometimes images don't look as good as I can, or at least you have to do a little bit more to the image. That little bit more usually used to be me going on DaVinci Resolve and using different tricks in order to make the images look the way that I want. But using something like a high quality cinema lens like these Arles Primes make it look a little bit better because it does have that texture and that character, which is why people get cinema lenses in the first place. Now, in terms of the price and whether or not I recommend these guys, these are going to sit around $2,000 each, or you're going to get a set just under $10,000. Now, before you freak out and say that's a lot of money in comparison to something like the Sigma Cines or the Tokina Vista Primes, two lenses I've used before, these are kind of in the same line as those guys, except it's a fraction of the price. I do like what DZO have done with these lenses. They've made them reasonably sharp but not over sharpened, detailed, and still has its own characteristics with a little bit of warmth and a really nice highlight roll-off, especially in some of the newer cameras that could be a little bit more sharper than what you asked for. Now, in putting that into perspective, getting a G Master lens is going to cost you around $2,000 anyways, more so the zoom line, but getting one of these guys, which is going to give you a unique character, is going to cost around the same thing. So if you're someone who's not opposed to buying 4 or 5 G Master lenses, well then these are kind of within that ballpark, although it's going to cost a little bit more depending on the lens you get. Now, if you're someone that does have a Vespid Prime, should you get the Arles Primes as an upgrade? I think that's going to be up to you. If you're someone that's missing a faster aperture than T1.2, then going the T1.4 is nice because you can shoot with these wide open without any sort of chromatic aberration or any drastic imperfections. But you do have to do a trade-off because these are heavier lenses. When you're using a gimbal, you have to be a little bit more considerate. When you're shooting in handheld, you're going to need to be a little bit more stronger, and you might have to do a couple more days at the gym. Overall, I think this 3.3 pound, $2,000 juice is going to be worth the squeeze. If you're looking for more quote unquote affordable cinema lenses, I know that's a buzzword for some people, it might get you angry, but in the grand scheme of things, these are pretty affordable for what they can do. I think they punch way above their weight class, even considering the fact I've used other cinema lenses in the past that cost more, and these look just as good in their own unique way. Now, I want to give a shout out to DZO Film for actually letting me borrow these lenses, because, well, yeah, I still don't know if I get to keep these yet, but hopefully I get to keep these for a little bit longer or indefinitely, and I can make more videos on them. But the YouTube algorithm thinks that you want to watch something that's probably over there or over there. I don't know. When I edit this video, I always get it wrong. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.